For the information of all of our colleagues, there were two very significant developments today. This morning, the Judiciary Committee reported out Judge Kavanaugh favorably. All 11 Republican members of the Judiciary Committee voted in favor of reporting him out with a favorable recommendation. Number two, we will shortly move to proceed to the Kavanaugh nomination. And I'm pleased to announce that all 51 Republican members of the Senate support the motion to proceed to the nomination. 100% of the Republican conference supports proceeding to the Kavanaugh nomination. Now, in committee, they reviewed the most pages of documents ever produced pertaining to any Supreme Court nomination. Literally hundreds of judicial opinions from his tenure on the Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, and 5 days of hearings during which Judge Kavanaugh testified for nearly 40 hours. Judge Kavanaugh testified on every topic from complicated legal subjects to sensitive personal matters. And there was testimony and statements from countless personal friends, classmates, co-workers, former clerks, and other associates. So the picture that emerged from all this is clear. Judge Kavanaugh is one of the most qualified and most impressive Supreme Court nominees in the history of our country. He's excelled at the highest levels of legal scholarship. He holds 2 degrees from Yale and for years has lectured at the Harvard Law School. He's issued more than 300 legal opinions from what is widely considered the second highest court in the nation. Several have subsequently been cited in the Supreme Court's own majority opinions. Along the way, he's built an outstanding reputation within the legal community for his clear, thoughtful writing, his exemplary, fair-minded judicial temperament. Judge Kavanaugh's qualifications have been affirmed by his peers and by renowned legal scholars from across the ideological spectrum. One self-described liberal Democrat who advised him at Yale said that Judge Kavanaugh, quote, commands wide and deep respect among scholars, lawyers, and jurists. And this praise has been echoed by hundreds of character witnesses who testified before the Senate or written us letters to praise Judge Kavanaugh's personal character and his integrity in the strongest terms. The committee has also thoroughly investigated the last-minute allegations that have been brought forward. The evidence that has been produced either fails to corroborate these accusations or, in fact, supports Judge Kavanaugh's unequivocal denial. And in some cases, the accusers have even recanted their baseless allegations. All in all, this is a nominee who's received what many consider the gold standard of judicial qualification, a rating of unanimously well qualified from the American Bar Association. So this is a nomination that deserves to move forward, and that is precisely, Mr. President, what is happening. I commend our colleagues on the committee for sending this impressive nominee here to the floor with favorable recommendation. Now we will keep the process moving. The full Senate will begin considering Judge Kavanaugh's nomination today.
The Majority Leader.
I understand the Senate has received a message from the House to accompany H.R. 302.
The Senate.
I move the chair lay before the Senate the message to accompany H.R. 302.
The question is on the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. They do have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk lays before the Senate a message from the House.
Resolved that the House agree to the amendment of the Senate to the bill H.R. 302 entitled An Act to Provide Protections for Certain Sports Medicine Professionals and so forth with an amendment to the Senate amendment.
I move to concur in the House amendment to the Senate amendment.
The clerk will report the motion.
The Senator from Kentucky, Mr. McConnell, moves to concur in the House amendment to the Senate amendment to H.R. 302.
I'll send a cloture motion to the desk on the motion to concur.
The clerk will report the motion.
Desk on the motion to concur.
The clerk will report.
Cloture motion. We, the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, do hereby move to bring to a close debate on the motion to concur in the House amendment to the Senate amendment to H.R. 302, an act to provide protections for certain sports medicine professionals who provide certain medical services in a secondary state.
I ask the reading of the names be
senators.
dispensed with.
Without objection.
I move to concur in the House amendment with a further amendment.
The clerk will report.
The Senator from Kentucky, Mr. McConnell, moves to concur in the House amendment to the Senate amendment to H.R. 302 with an amendment numbered 4026.
I ask the reading be dispensed with.
Without objection.
I ask for the ayes and nays on my amendment.
Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. The yeas and nays are ordered.
I have a second-degree amendment at the desk.
The clerk will report.
The Senator from Kentucky, Mr. McConnell, proposes an amendment numbered 4027 to amendment number 4026.
I ask the reading be dispensed with.
Without objection.
I move to refer the House message on H.R. 302 to the Committee on Commerce to report back forthwith with instructions.
The clerk will report the motion.
The Senator from Kentucky, Mr. McConnell, moves to refer the message to accompany H.R. 302 to the Committee on Commerce with instructions, being amendment number 4028.
I ask for the ayes and nays on my motion.
Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. The yeas and nays are ordered.
I have an amendment to the instructions.
The clerk will report the amendment.
The Senator from Kentucky, Mr. McConnell, proposes an amendment number 4029 to the instructions of the motion to refer H.R. 302.
I ask the reading be dispensed with.
Without objection.
I ask for the ayes and nays on my amendment.
Is there a sufficient second? Appears to be. The yeas and nays are ordered.
I have a second-degree amendment at the desk.
The clerk will report.
The Senator from Kentucky, Mr. McConnell, proposes an amendment numbered 4030 to amendment number 4029.
I ask the reading be dispensed with.
Without objection.
I ask the mandatory quorum call be waived.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that notwithstanding Rule 22 at 5 p.m. on Monday, October 1st, the Senate resume consideration of the House message to accompany H.R. 302 as if in legislative session. Further, that at 5:30 p.m. on Monday, the Senate vote on the motion to invoke cloture on the motion to concur. Further, if cloture is invoked, the Senate remain in executive session and the post-cloture time continue to run as otherwise under the rule. Finally, that upon the use or yielding back of post-cloture time, the Senate vote as if in legislative session on the motion to concur.
Without objection.
I move to proceed to executive session to consider calendar 1127.
Without objection. The question is on the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and the motion is agreed to. The clerk will report the nomination.
Nomination, Supreme Court of the United States, Brett M. Kavanaugh of Maryland to be an Associate Justice.
I ask unanimous consent the Majority Leader and the Senior Senator from Arkansas be authorized to sign duly enrolled bills or joint resolutions during the upcoming recess of the Senate.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it recess until 3 p.m. Monday, October 1st. Following the prayer and pledge, the journal of proceedings be approved to date. The time for the two leaders be reserved for their use later in the day.
Without objection.
So if there's no further business to come before the Senate, I ask it stand in recess under the previous order.
The Senate stands in recess until 3 p.m. on Monday.